I want to start this video with a bit of a story from my past. So you can imagine me in this scenario. I'm in my room, it's a Friday night, I'm in my dark room, and I'm playing video games, just like any other typical Friday afternoon at this point in my life. I'm basically, playing Minecraft, and I'm switching between that and listening to Rage Bait podcasts, uh, putting my headphones on, listening to like high speed EDM. I'm on my third soda of the night. The caffeine is keeping me on this euphoric level of stimulation that I really just can't get enough of. My room, it smells like sweat residue. It smells like cum because I've jerked off like 3 times today. I'm overtired because it's like 11 p.m. It's past my bedtime. I'm staying up though. I'm watching YouTube. I'm scrolling through Reddit. I'm alternating between that, playing more video games. I'm just filling my brain with all this extra stimulation because I want to distract myself from the reality of my situation, right? It's almost like my life is too boring. My life is too terrible for me to just handle it without all this extra entertainment to kind of make it more manageable in a way. Compare that version of me, that's gaming, that's eating junk food, that's having probably like a lot of fun, as he would put it, and contrast that to me about a month later after I started to take myself a little bit more seriously and I started running, for example. So it's the same Friday night, it's a month later, it's 7 p.m., and I'm running, right? I'm running through this field. I'm running on a pathway through this field, coming back from running around a soccer field a couple times. And what I notice as I'm running, right? It's hot. I'm sweating. My face is just glistening with the sweat. It's leaking into my eyes. It's stinging my eyes. It's making them tear up. I'm running at a steady pace, and as I'm running, I notice that the grass is green. I notice that the air is clear. I kind of take a moment to be present as I'm running on my way home. I'm on like my 10th kilometer already, but in the past month, I've changed so much that I can truly appreciate a moment like this where all I'm doing is just running through some random field in the middle of nowhere, and I can suddenly appreciate the countryside and the greenness of the grass and the clearness of the air and the coolness of the night and stuff like that. And even though I'm going through a significant amount of pain, I can still just appreciate the moment, right? Like, I can be so happy with the simplicity in that moment. Like, I can be so much more happier with that compared to me spending that same Friday night just playing video games again and watching like extra stimulating movies and stuff like that and just trying to entertain myself with these products, right? So that all goes to say that this is an introduction to why you should reset your dopamine, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you why resetting your dopamine is going to make you happier. It's going to skyrocket your potential for success, and basically how to do it practically. How anyone can do this right from their own home like I did. So the first thing I want to talk about is what dopamine actually is. So you can imagine if you're one of the people who believes in evolution, for example, you can imagine like a primate, one of our primate monkey ancestors swinging through the branches in sub-Saharan Africa looking for some food, right? So when this hypothetical monkey ancestor comes across like a bunch of bananas or something, that monkey is going to get a dopamine hit because it's found food, right? It's found something that it needs to survive. So its brain is going to reward itself for finding sustenance, basically. So that's kind of a good analogy for what the purpose of dopamine actually is. It's to motivate our pursuit of rewards, right? Whether those rewards are kind of needs, so they're kind of extra, or they're wants, like they're necessary for life. So your brain might reward you with dopamine when you finally have a drink of water after not drinking for like a day. Or it might reward you with some dopamine after scrolling on Twitter, right? Because it receives these bright colors and these fast updates, and whatever's going on Twitter today as also a hit of dopamine, just because that's what your brain is accustomed to, like naturally, right? So dopamine really is not a bad thing. But if you look at something like social media, so I already used a Twitter example, but if you look at TikTok, for example, then what TikTok does is TikTok basically takes advantage of our brain through scrolling. So I never really have used TikTok, but if I did, I would imagine that I would be scrolling through these short form videos, right? I would have my phone, I would be scrolling through these short form videos, and I would be constantly stimulated by looking at, someone doing this dance, and then there's like a meme on the next video, and then I scroll down again, and there's like this product review, and then there's this prank that someone's playing, and then there's this like montage of some random stuff. But the point of TikTok, the point of all this social media is to make money off of people's basically internal dopamine rewards just working as they're supposed to. But the only thing is, these social media platforms are hijacking your dopamine along with other industries like junk food, for example, or porn, or video games, or all of these degenerate habits, right? That's what makes all of these habits so degenerate, is that they take advantage of your brain's natural internal reward systems that are supposed to be used to keep you alive, but they give it different input that it needs to basically overstimulate it and kind of keep you involved with a whole bunch of stuff you don't even care about, and you just stick with it because it's what your brain is used to, it's what your brain wants to consume, it's what your brain is telling you to look at for 10 hours a day, right? Nobody would be addicted to social media if our brains weren't hardwired for it. So that's my point. So this business that has been made off of hijacking people's mental reward systems is basically just used to make money, right? The only person who wins from using 10 hours of TikTok is the Chinese government or whoever owns TikTok, right? Because my mental health, my productivity is going to suffer. I'm not going to be happier because I spent 10 hours on TikTok. If I have enough self-respect, I'm actually going to be ashamed of that. I'm going to be very shocked and probably saddened by that. So my mental health is going to suffer as a result of that, kind of through a negative feedback loop, as well as my productivity, because I literally just spent 10 hours in front of my phone trying to get this extra stimulation, right? So for this next point, I want you to think about two different chickens, right? Humans aren't chickens, but I want you to think of this quick analogy, right? So we have one chicken, and it's living on a farm, right? It's living on a free-range farm. It gets to walk around the farmer's property all day. It gets to eat bugs. It gets to just scratch around in the dirt. It gets to basically do stuff that makes it happy, and it basically gets to live like a chicken is supposed to live. It's roosting and all that stuff. It's doing whatever healthy chickens do, right? It has pretty much infinite freedom, and it's actually pretty healthy. And it's actually pretty healthy and pretty happy. So contrast that against like a farm raised or like a farm factory raised chicken, where it basically spends its entire life either like in a little cage where it can't move, or on a conveyor belt where it's about to get slaughtered, or where it's being born or whatever, right? So that farm factory chicken is going to be a lot less happy than its counterpart that was raised on like a free range farm, right? So why is that factory raised chicken less healthy and less happy? Well, because it's just living like a chicken isn't supposed to, right? It just has this terrible life inside of this farm factory where it's confined to its cage, and it's being fed like grains for its entire life, and it just lives miserably, right? Like, chickens don't have emotions, right? But it just lives like this miserable life compared to its counterpart that was raised on like a free range farm. So what that means is that the way forward for better health for basically any animal, and that includes humans, right? For any creature, is to live like you are supposed to, right? I think that one thing is the way forward for human health, basically in the future. This is what preventative medicine is all about. This is what epigenetics, alternative diets are all about, or at least the stuff that actually works, is that humans are supposed to live as humans were meant to live, like since the beginning of time. Basically, we have to live like we are our hunter-gatherer ancestors, or at least if you want optimal health. So you might be wondering, how long will it take for me to get off these bad habits for good? How long will it take me to break all these addictions I might have? So I want you to think of, well, maybe a more of an extreme example with maybe a crackhead trying to get off of heroin, right? Apparently, allegedly, from what I've heard, heroin withdrawals are pretty painful, right? People get fevers, people get headaches, people get seizures and everything because they're trying to get off of like this super hard drug that their body is accustomed to. And when they're on this withdrawal, then basically the initial symptoms of withdrawal are painful, but if they stick with the rehab program long enough and they don't basically just relapse on heroin, then they become healed. Their brain kind of heals itself, and they realize that they really just don't need the drug to begin with, and then they completely heal as a result, right? That's the ideal outcome, and I think that with trying to get off of high dopamine habits, it's about the same. You just gotta progressively deload from these experiences, right? So you might be playing video games for about 10 hours today, right? You might be at that level right now. But if tomorrow, for example, you only played for 8 hours, that'd be amazing progress compared to if you just went absolutely cold turkey tomorrow and told yourself, well, I'm not going to play video games anymore whatsoever at all, right? That's going to be unrealistic because at one point, you're going to basically relapse on video games, right? You're going to completely fast from them for maybe a couple days if you're super devoted. But one of these days, you're going to go back to playing video games because you're bored or because you have nothing better to do. And once you do, you're probably gonna play like 12 hours because once you've relapsed on the thing, once you've broken your unrealistic expectation for yourself, you're going to go hog wild with it. Compared to if you keep limiting yourself to a certain amount every single day from now on. So maybe if I'm playing 10 hours today, I'll play 9 hours tomorrow, and then the day after that, I'll play 8 hours. And I'll work my way down maybe to like half an hour per day. And then once I'm at that level, then maybe I can go completely quit and go cold turkey. But even then after that, I might relapse like a couple times. So the whole point is to progressively deload. By the way, if you need help with any of this stuff, if you want to improve your diet, if you want to get fit, if you want to get huge within the gym, you want to start running, any of that, I have a coaching practice currently set up. You go ahead and DM me on Instagram. I'll leave the link below. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and check it out. So what can dopamine detox do for you? Well, basically, it's going to give you more of this masculine presence within your everyday life. So you can use this for pretty much anything once you get off of dopamine detox. It's kind of like a superpower that you can apply to any area of life. So you can use this to be more present in business, relationships, going to the gym, fitness, health, all this stuff. Once you are more present with your habits, you can actually devote more effort towards them. And the more effort or willpower you're giving towards them, then the more progress you can make, basically. So dopamine detox is kind of like this cheat code, kind of like this life hack that you can use to basically 10x your progress in any area of life because you have so much less distractions and you're being so much more essentialist with your effort. It's kind of like if you have this river and it's being divided into like a whole bunch of streams, a whole bunch of tributaries, right? There's kind of like a delta and it's dividing into all these little streams. That's where like all of your effort is going. But going on to dopamine detox is kind of like shutting off those little streams and just making one big continuous river of your energy, of your effort, right? That's going to one specific thing, or just like a couple specific things within your life. So I think that's the real power of dopamine detox is its simplicity. So the final point I want to make here is that the more present you are as a man, the more power you have, the more masculine you are. See, in spirituality, the essence of masculinity is very much associated with presence, with control, with basically enacting order upon chaos. So you can use this within your daily life when you are present and when you are on dopamine detox and when you are in control of all of your situations. Once you have that, you have so much more masculine presence basically to take control of your life and to change it for your liking. So I think that that's the ultimate goal of this video, is to get you there. So before I move on to how you can practically use this, before I give you some practical actionable steps, I want to go over some limiting beliefs that you might be having. So one thing people may say, which is kind of valid honestly, is that you don't really need dopamine detox to get rich and successful, which, I mean, that is true. You can make a lot of money, you can get very high status within any area, say acting, sports, whatever stereotypical high status area that celebrities get into. You can technically get into those areas without being on dopamine detox. But going on to this program, basically just reprogramming your brain to be more focused, to be more present, is going to help you make wiser decisions for your future, right? So I don't know, let's use sports as an example. Let's say I want to be an all-star basketball player because I've been watching, NBA TikToks of, these basketball players faking each other out and like scoring massive wins and having these really sick lives, and I want to be just like them. So I decided that I want to devote my life efforts towards basketball. But let's say that once I go on dopamine detox, I realize that I don't really want to do that anymore. I realized that that desire was inauthentic because my only desire for that was because I was watching these guys get status from it. What I think dopamine detox will do is that it's going to save like decades of your life, because you're going to realize, once you've taken a step away from all this extra input, what is your authentic desire and what is your inauthentic desire, right? So this is going to be very effective for finding your purpose as well, because once you take a step away from what is inauthentic, from what is basically just the monkey brain input, you can realize what you truly want out of life. How great is that, right? So some people aren't fully committed to the idea of dopamine detox, and what they say is that, well, 1 hour per day of video games, of porn, of, one serving of junk food for me per day is fine, right? If I'm just doing everything in moderation, if I'm just limiting the amount of bad stuff that I'm doing, then I'll probably be fine. I'll probably be able to get success. I'll probably be able to, live healthfully. But that's not really the case, because if you have any experience with trying to quit video games, you know that it never is just 1 hour, right? If you tell yourself that you're going to limit yourself to that, it's more like 1 hour and 30 minutes. Because let's say I go on my PC and I tell myself I'm only going to play for an hour, but once the hour is up, I tell myself, oh, I just got to finish this thing and it'll just be a couple more minutes. Where when I'm finally done that thing, it's like an hour and 10. And then I take like 20 more minutes to try and do this other stuff. And at the very least, it's more like an hour and a half than an hour, because you just lack the self-control and the self-awareness to really make responsible decisions to get off dopamine detox. So 1 hour really is a myth. It's either you are playing video games, it's either you are doing bad habits, or you aren't. So one more excuse for not going on dopamine detox, or one more excuse for saying it doesn't work, is that it's impossible to kind of rid yourself of the modern stimulation. It's everywhere you look. It's even outside, right? I go to the gym. There's like loud music blaring on the speakers. I try and listen to stuff on Spotify. I get these high dopamine ads for these useless products. I try and watch educational videos on YouTube. I get these really wacky ads that are full of dopamine trying to get me to buy their product. I go outside. If I'm in the city, there's these massive billboards with these brightly colored advertisements and like these different products that these big companies want me to buy, and it's all just so full of dopamine. It's like, how do you escape? Which, I mean, that is a pretty valid question, but I think what you have to do is you got to isolate yourself if that's necessary, right? If watching educational stuff on YouTube is going to exposure to ads, then either get an ad blocker or just stop watching YouTube. Just read books instead, right? Reading books is really underrated anyways. You could probably get a lot more value from that than just like a 5-minute YouTube video full of like editing and everything that's like top 5 nofap tips or stuff like that. So basically, if you think that there's no escape from modern stimulation, just find the environment where there is no stimulation. So maybe if you're in the big city and you're trying to go on dopamine detox, then you should just stay in your room for most of the day, or you should just stay at your job, or you should go to the park, right? Where there's basically no big billboards telling you to buy stuff, where you're not going to see anything that's high dopamine, basically. There's always some kind of an environment within your immediate surroundings that is going to let you kind of refocus on yourself without this extra stimulation. Finally, some actionable steps for this video is, well, the first thing you gotta start doing is you gotta start having the discipline to meditate just for a few minutes every day. So go ahead and get the app Medito. I might put a link to it in the description, but you want to get this app on the app store called Medito, and you basically just set a timer for like 5, 8, 10 minutes, and you just start to meditate for just a couple minutes a day. And then once you get really good at that, you just progressively overload to more meditation time, basically. So I might start on 5 minutes, and then after a couple weeks I'll go to 8, and then after a couple more weeks I'll go to 10. It's basically just exposure therapy, getting used to new stuff, and then going past that point once you get used to it. So yeah, meditation is an excellent habit for dopamine detox. But sorry about the audio quality so far. I just reviewed some of my footage, and it's pretty rough, so I apologize for that. But yeah, so another actionable step is to basically just take a walk in nature pretty much every single day from now on. Doesn't matter how long it is. Maybe it's just around your block. Just go for a long walk in nature every single day from now on. Try and notice stuff that you never even saw there before. Be super present throughout your walk, or at least try to be, right? A good strategy is to go somewhere in your city or your town that you've never seen before and just kind of explore that area, kind of like a new part of the map. I mean, that's what always worked for me, you know. Going to the creek by my house, trying to look for places that I've never seen before. Going to the soccer field by my house, looking for, you know, little routes, little areas that I basically had never been before. It's like going on a little adventure. So at least try and do at least one of those per day from now on, right? Good habits you should start as well is reading books, having present conversations. If you feel like you can't read a couple pages of a book or have a present conversation with someone right now, then that's a good thing to work up towards. Just start reading like maybe 1 page of a book per day, or start just like making more eye contact with people, or just saying hi to random people on the street. Just start small and then work your way up is a big part of this method. So yeah, I might have already said this, but you're gonna want to progressively deload from playing video games, listening to like overstimulating music, or you know, just constantly stimulating yourself in general. I think music is okay, maybe if you're in the gym, but you're generally just going to want to do one thing at a time, right? That's the general rule. So whether you're going for a walk, or you're cooking your meal, or you're eating it, or you're trying to get to sleep, or whatever you're doing, just do one thing at a time. You're not brushing your teeth and listening to a podcast. You're not in the shower and listening to a podcast. You're not reading a book and listening to music at the same time. Just don't do that, because that's going to overstimulate your brain, basically, and that's kind of the opposite of dopamine detox. Plus, doing like one thing per time and trying to be present in basically everything you do is going to help you be so much more aware of yourself, you know, your internal thoughts, your views on stuff, your perception of things, and it's also going to help fast track you towards finding your purpose if that's something you're interested in, which I think pretty much every person should be trying to find the reason that they were put on the earth for. So yeah, go ahead and watch the other video on purpose that I made. That'll probably help explain things for you if you want to get started on that, which, I mean, good on you if you are. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if this stuff helped you. go ahead and put some suggestions in the comments for if you want me to make changes to the video quality or how I film these. If there's parts of this that like you are kind of uncomfortable with, if there are parts of this video that you think could be done better, then you know, I'm open to suggestions. Please don't hesitate to let me know what you think. Yeah, and go ahead and share this with a friend who can't be pulled away from a screen, because we all know at least one person like that who's got a bit of a dopamine addiction going on. So yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you later.